Okay, so the clutch is ready to assemble. I have everything in plastic bags to keep out debris. Here's the clutch center. So you can recall that there's a spring seat. So the flat side is pointing toward the engine, and this is a jetter spring. And so you can see the orientation of the jetter spring. It's also pointing that way, or curving that way. And what I'm going to try to do is actually assemble the clutch on the clutch center. And so you can see we have the fiber plates. They're in a plastic bag. There's a little bit of oil in the plastic bag, and it's a lot more efficient to use this method than just putting it in a bucket, because you can put very little oil and just kind of rotate this whole thing like that and make sure that all the discs are oiled. And I marked, so all these fiber plates are stacked in sequence, and I marked this side of the bag out, which means the discs are going to sit like this. I've done the same exact thing for the metal plates, or the steel plates. And so out means that the flat side of the plates is pointing toward the pressure plate inside the engine, right? So the rolled side is out, the flat side is in. So I'm going to sit both of these with the label out facing up, and then I can start stacking the plates onto the clutch center. I'm going to start with the fiber plates. The fiber plates are sitting in this bag so that the labels, or the stampings, are all in one direction. So if you look at the plates, it's difficult to see, but you can see that the stampings are on this side, which means they're going to be facing out, which means when I pull these plates out, I'm going to be flipping them over and putting them like this. So, and we alternate the fiber plates and the metal plates. Actually, one thing I should probably do is wipe them off. I don't want excess oil there. So remember, this first plate is different from all the rest of the fiber plates. And the same is true for the first steel plate. It's different from the rest of the steel plates. Again, I'm flipping all of these guys over when I install them. As far as the fiber plates are concerned, it's not critical that they all face the same direction, because essentially both sides are the same, but I just like to keep all the markings facing in the same direction. And that's how these plates came out of the clutch basket originally. Okay, and the very last fiber plate, again, is different from all the rest of them. Now we can install the pressure plate. And I wanted to mention that all these thread holes have been cleaned, and there is no lubricant on them at all, because it's going to affect our torques. So I want to make sure that I'm installing all the fasteners dry. Now we have our whole assembly. I'm going to try to line everything up. There we go. Okay, now I'm ready to install the lock washer and the nut. Again, these threads have been cleaned so there's no oil on these threads to make sure that when we torque the lock nut down, we don't over torque anything. So we then install the lock washer. This is the out direction. And then I'm going to install the nut. This is the part number for the nut. And as you can see, it appears different than the original lock nut. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to install it hand tight. Okay, you may recall that we used a tool in order to remove the original lock nut. We also used a tool to hold the clutch basket in place. But now, since they provide a regular hex nut, there's really no need to use either of the special tools. At this point, we can just put the bike in 5th gear and then lock the brake, and hopefully we can tighten this nut without using any special tools. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rotate the rear wheel, and I'm going to put the gearbox in 5th gear. Okay, I'm turning the rear wheel and manipulating the shift lever. So I just placed the gearbox in 5th gear. So what I need to do is I need to get the bike off the stand. And what I'm going to do now is tighten the rear brake so that we can lock our rear wheel in place. Okay, so at this point, the rear brake is fully engaged, so the clutch hopefully is not going to move, so we just need to torque it down to spec. And the spec is 80 pound-feet of torque. We're using a 27mm socket. It's important to keep the wrench square. And it seems like our wheel is moving, so maybe I need to tighten up the brake a little bit more. See if that does the trick.